Summertime in Barcelona. Thousands of protesters on the streets, many with water guns, targeting hotels and holidaymakers. Their message, overtourism is destroying their way of life. And it's not just one Spanish city. Protests like this have spread across Europe, and governments are being forced to act. I'm Cyril Vanier, and this is Pinch Point, where geography and politics collide. These demonstrators know the importance of tourist dollars. In 2024, Spain earned $107 billion from international tourism. But they say that industry is now pricing them out of their own city.
Parte sí, yo creo que simplemente hay que pararlo, o sea, está creciendo demasiado, hasta cierto punto estaba bien el turismo, pero ahora nos está dejando sin casas, sin nuestros lugares en la calle, y eso hay que pararlo.
Nos afecta en la vivienda porque cada vez más nos echan de los pisos para volverlos turísticos.
In April, protests broke out against soaring rents and a lack of affordable housing in 40 cities across Spain. In Portugal, there have been similar complaints, similar protests, but no city in Europe attracts more tourists than Paris, even in winter. In June, staff at the Louvre Museum staged a spontaneous strike to protest against unmanageable crowds. In Venice, these protests gained global attention because they took place during the three-day wedding of Lauren Sanchez and Jeff Bezos, the billionaire Amazon founder. These residents didn't like their city being turned into a virtual theme park for the nuptials, but their frustration was driven by over-tourism. Venice receives close to 30 million tourists every year, and that's led housing costs to skyrocket. Its historic city center now has fewer than 50,000 residents, compared to more than 100,000 some 50 years ago. These protests were in Spain's Canary Islands, but they've been repeated in Naples, Milan, San Sebastian, and Amsterdam, and their complaints are always the same. They say mass tourism is hollowing out their communities, that the boom in short-term rental properties has pushed their neighbors to move out and tourists to move in. Rents are unaffordable, the streets are packed, and resources like power and water are under strain. Europe recorded more than 747 million international tourist arrivals in 2024. In the first 3 months of 2025, there have been 125 million international tourists. That's up 2% on the same period in 2024 and 5% more than the same period before the COVID-19 pandemic. And COVID is a key factor in the rise in tourist numbers now, and the anger of residents who got used to seeing their cities being virtually empty during the pandemic. France's tourism minister, Nathalie Delattre, has another theory. She says 30% more Canadian and Japanese tourists are holidaying in France because they do not want to visit Trump's United States. Governments and city leaders have started to act. In Venice, day trippers have to pay an entry fee. The city has also banned cruise ships. In March 2025, Spain's Constitutional Court endorsed a proposal to ban short-term rentals altogether by November 2028. Amsterdam is raising tourist taxes, as well as restricting short-term rentals and new hotels. But that's not enough for one residents group that is now suing the city to force them to restrict numbers even more. On the Greek island of Santorini, cruise ships used to offload tens of thousands of passengers every day. That's now been limited to 8,000, and passengers have to pay a $23 tourist tax. That fee is unlikely to stop the tourists, though. It's projected that more than 40 million international tourists will have passed through Greece by the end of 2025. That's 4 tourists for every local. As long as tourist numbers continue to grow, we're likely to see more scenes like these. The tourists appear to understand the problem, but that's not going to stop them heading for their dream destinations.
I understand the city is very crowded most of the time, especially the attractions, and I can understand why people would be frustrated with that.
And the rent issue.
And the rents and the costs, but we are providing their economy with a lot of money.
But protesters in Barcelona and across Europe are starting to believe that the cash just isn't worth the hassle. They want their cities back, and they'll continue to fire their water guns and their governments to achieve their goal.